I was listening to my man KG and Paul Pierce chop it up the other day on KG's new show. And they were discussing an interesting topic. They said, if you had KD and Giannis playing one-on-one, who's taking a W? And then the conversation led on to, KG said, listen, let's put up 10 mil and let's take 6 of the best players from the NBA. You have to average 20 to qualify, and let's have a one-on-one tournament. He said, let's put them on Alcatraz. Let's give them 6 dribbles each. So it got me thinking, a one-on-one tournament, let's say 8 players to make it a proper tournament, right? Who are the 8 players that you want to see from the NBA right now in that tournament? Because I think KD is a no-brainer. KD and Giannis guaranteed spots.
You know, Mo, I'm a little older than you, so I'm going to go back. I remember when they were doing these one-on-one type tournaments, and I remember it's one that's floating out there where you saw Kareem versus Dr. J.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the bigs are going to win the one-on-one. It's not the sexy thing to say, but the bigs are going to win the one-on-one. They're going to win the one-on-one.
So you saying Embiid and Jokic are going to come in, or do you mean Giannis?
I'm saying Giannis, Embiid. Who's stopping Embiid on the offensive end? Come on. Another big. KD, LeBron, who else you want to put out there? Jason Tatum, whoever else. They're not stopping. They're
Kyrie.
Not Kyrie. That's it. Come on. Like, you're talking moves, right? You're not stopping the bigs. You're just not going to stop them, especially on the. You're not going to stop Jokic. You're not going to like steal the ball from him. He's going to crab dribble. Giannis is probably the most qualified player to win that tournament because he's probably the most versatile defender out of all of the groups. And he has the most realistic chance of at least contesting all the other players, right? No one's going to stop KD. Don't get me wrong, but KD's not stopping them either. Now, could KD roll off 10 in a row? Absolutely, he could. But if he does miss, let's say he goes 9 for 10 from the field. I don't feel confident about him stopping JoJo or Jokic or Giannis.
So I had this debate with some friends a couple of years ago, and I remember, you know, when you get into those debates that go on for hours, and they were telling me, this was when Steph Curry was unanimous MVP. They said to me, one-on-one, Steph Curry in his prime would beat Shaq in his prime. And I said to them, listen, Steph Curry in his prime is still not shooting 100% from 3. Because they said 3s are worth more than 2s. I said, yeah, but he's not going to shoot 100% from 3. But Shaq is going to score 100% of his points.
Yeah, it's not.
It's a maths game. It's a maths game for me.
Well, it's not even a math game. It's a matchup. This is the thing that analytics doesn't take into consideration. Look at the matchup. Steph Curry can lose on the flip. The flip goes heads and tails. Shaq gets the ball first. Game is over.
There you go. He's going to score 10 in a row. He's going to score 11 in a row, 21 in a row.
Shaq is not going to. What is Steph going to do against Shaq?
Exactly.
Nothing. And don't forget, look, listen. Since we're talking about Shaq, you know, I've wanted to say this for a long time. You know, they talk about the greatest, and we talk about the greatest, and we throw this guy. But, you know, truthfully speaking, Mo, there's really no greatest, right? You have
it's subjective.
These moments in time. Yeah, you have these moments in time, and the thing I admire most is who's the most dominant player. And the only way we can say who's the most dominant player is by looking who won, right? Okay, so in this era, you can say this guy was the most dominant. That era, you could say that guy's the most dominant. And then you can start, you know, having these arguments. Oh, this guy had the most points. This guy went to the finals the most. This guy, whatever your criteria is. But let me tell you something more. I want to say something about, because I played against Prime Shaq.
Unlucky.
Okay.
Unlucky.
I played against Prime Shaq. Now, I saw Prime Tim Duncan. I saw Prime Akeem Olajuwon. I saw Magic. I saw Bird. I saw Kobe. I saw all of these guys. The single most dominant force, just a pure force, was Shaq. I'm talking force. All right? I'm not saying he was the greatest player because Shaq wasn't always in superior shape. But I'm telling you, he's the most dominant force I've ever seen. And if Shaq, because I really admire him. I saw Akeem Olajuwon. Remember when Dream had that little run, that 2 or 3 year run where he was like, I mean, Dream was
defensive player, MVP, finals MVP.
Shaq, I'm just going to say it. Shaq probably should have been the greatest player. He probably should have been. And the reason I say that is because there was no counter to him at all in the NBA. There was no Jordan rules. There was no matchup problem. There was no we can force him to do whatever. There was no counter to him. The only counter to him was Shaquille O'Neal.
Mm-hmm.
And Shaq had a few, he wasn't a perfect player, but if Shaq would have just worked on just a couple things, one, been in superior condition, okay, that would have eliminated probably 90% of all the other things that I can say. Because the only other thing you can really say about his game was his free throw shooting.
Yeah. But he still made them when it counts, as he likes to remind us.
Yeah, absolutely. Shaq is without question the most dominant force. Okay. And when you start looking at the history of the NBA, the biggest athletes, the most powerful athletes, more times than not, always wins in a 7-game series. I think Shaq, what did he win? 4 championships?
Yeah.
He probably should have won at least 7 or 8. And I think he will say that. I don't think he will probably say it out loud, but I think Shaq, especially, I mean, when you think about this, Mo, he was playing with the late Kobe Bryant.
Mm-hmm. He always says if they never split up that team,
Mo, listen. Every time I played against Shaq, I did the same exact thing. I wanted to check to see if the big fella was going to step out on the screen roll, because if he was going to step out on the screen roll, then you knew you had no chance to win.
Yep.
Okay. Because if he wanted to play defense that night,
and he could move his feet as well. Younger fans, newer fans think he's this big, slow guy.
No.
Shaq
could move. No, prime Shaq could move like no other. If you would come down and you would just come off the screen to see if the big fella was like, okay, I'm just chilling tonight. Okay, now you got a chance, because the big fella maybe he's not going to turn up the defensive end until the 4th quarter or the 3rd quarter, whenever he feels like it. But when he was active and he wanted to defend, he could control the entire game. Now, I've always wanted to say that about Shaq, is because everyone forgets how good he really was. Shaq was an immovable force. He was a force that I don't care what era he was playing in, but he was not a perfect player because of the things we talk about, free throw shooting, and he wasn't always in superior shape. But when he was in shape, that was 40 and 20 at the very least. Think about that. When he wanted to show up, he could be 40 and 20 just messing around.
Mm-hmm. And this is why
there was nothing.
This is when you said you played against Shaq in his prime. I said unlucky, because I don't think there's a player in NBA history. You said, who do I not want to go up against on the court? I don't want to see him. I don't want any of that problems.
It was Shaq. I mean, people forget this. And when Michael came back, Shaq was the guy who beat us.
Yeah.
When he came back, Shaq was
95.
Shaq was a serious problem thank goodness he didn't. Thank goodness he really is a. When I don't know what's the proper term. If he was Shaq had a mean streak in him too. He had a mean streak, but he was a gentle soul because he could have really hurt somebody.
Yeah,
he could have really hurt somebody.
He hurt plenty of backboards.
Yeah, he could have hurt somebody. You know, thank goodness that Lucille, his mom, she raised him the right way because he really could have hurt somebody.
Mm-hmm.
He was that good. He was that dominant. He was so athletic. He was so strong, and he was quick. I'm telling you, man, he had footwork that was like beyond. He could step out, move. He had it all.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, it was incredible to watch him. It was incredible to watch him because he was such a dominant force.
He was a superhero. Superhero. Like he's one of the first players that really got me into watching the NBA when I was a kid. When I seen Shaquille O'Neal, that was like watching a superhero play basketball.
But
you know,